Royal blue, not green, not the color anyone was expecting from the most talked about Filipina athlete on the planet. Nike dropped one image this weekend, and within hours, tennis fashion pages, Filipino fan accounts, and casual American sports fans who had never even heard the name Alex Eala a month ago were all saying the same thing. This is not just a kit reveal. This is a statement. Because when a global brand designs a headline Grand Slam outfit around an athlete, they are not guessing, they are betting. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what Nike is betting on, why the timing of this reveal is not an accident, and why this single dress might end up being one of the most talked about storylines heading into the 2026 US Open Rewind 7 days. Alex Eala walked off the court in Washington, D.C. a champion for the very first time in her WTA career, closing out world number 4 Jessica Pegula in the Mubadala DC Open final, with a scoreline nobody predicted, bagling one of the best players on tour in the deciding set. From there, straight into Toronto, where a Wednesday night session sold out in half an hour, and a tournament director with 20 years in the job admitted on camera he had never experienced a crowd like it. That was the week. That was the Ursum sitting on the table when Nike finalized what Alex Eala would step onto Arthur Ashe Stadium wearing. And this weekend, the world got the answer. Before we get into it, if you've been following Eala's rise before the mainstream tennis media caught up, this channel is built for you. Subscribe now so you don't miss what's coming out of New York in the next 3 weeks. Nike unveiled the dress this past weekend, a royal blue NikeCourt slam design, sleeveless, with crisp white and black trim running along the edges. Mesh panels sit along the sides and back, built for movement and airflow, giving the piece a sharper, more athletic silhouette than the soft pleated florals fans saw from Eala earlier this year. The design leans into a basketball-inspired direction that Nike is pushing across its 2026 US Open lineup: bold panel lines, structured cuts, a look built to feel powerful under stadium lights. Nike's own description for the piece leans into exactly that mindset, the idea of stepping onto the court already feeling like you've won before the first point is even played. It's priced at $140, expected to hit retail shelves shortly after the reveal, meaning fans in both the US and the Philippines will be able to wear the exact kit their favorite player competes in at Flushing Meadows. But here's the detail that made Filipino fans stop scrolling immediately. Royal blue and white side by side line up almost perfectly with the colors of the Philippine flag. Nike never had to spell that out. The comment sections did it within minutes of the images going live. Understand exactly what Eala is walking into New York carrying: a career-high ranking inside the world's top 20, her first WTA singles title, a run to the 4th round at Wimbledon, and a fan base that just proved, live in Toronto, that it can outsell a tournament's own grandstand court and force a night session sellout in a city that historically only does that for the very biggest names in the sport. Brands do not hand their most prominent Grand Slam design to a player they think will lose in the first round. They build entire marketing windows around athletes they expect the cameras to still be on in the second week. This dress is not a routine kit refresh. It is Nike quietly telling the entire tennis industry exactly who they believe is about to become one of the sport's biggest commercial stories. And this isn't the first time this year Nike has leaned into Eala's identity instead of designing around it. Earlier this season, the brand released a limited edition capsule built specifically around her heritage, designed by a Manila-based artist, featuring the sampaguita, the Philippines' national flower, worked into a tennis court motif across a t-shirt, cap, and tote bag. Ahead of her Wimbledon debut last year, Nike gifted her a sampaguita hair tie for the exact same reason. This US Open dress isn't a standalone moment, it's the continuation of a pattern. A global sportswear giant repeatedly choosing to center a Southeast Asian athlete's story, in a sport that has almost never done that before. If you followed Eala's Grand Slam wardrobe over the past year, this reveal hits differently. Last year's US Open saw her in a striking red tank paired with a deep burgundy pleated skirt. This year, at Roland Garros and again at her Birmingham title run, she wore a soft pink ballerina-inspired set that generated its own wave of online buzz, even catching the attention of a tennis legend who shared her photo publicly. Off the court, she's leaned into her roots just as intentionally, once wearing a Filipiniana ensemble designed by her own uncle, a respected fashion designer, at an international sports awards ceremony in Madrid. Every one of those looks told a small story. This one tells the biggest story yet, because for the first time, the outfit isn't just fashionable, it's strategic. It's Nike positioning her, visually, as a headliner walking into the final Grand Slam of the year, within hours of the images going public. Tennis fashion writers were already placing this reveal in the same conversation as the boldest kit drops from the sport's biggest established stars. Filipino fans flooded comment sections with flag emojis and messages of pride. American fans, many of whom only discovered Eala during her Washington and Toronto runs 3 weeks ago, started asking a much much simpler question. Who is this player? And why does everyone suddenly care what she's wearing to a tennis match? That question is the entire story. A month ago, Alex Eala's outfit choices were a footnote buried in tennis fashion roundups. Today, they are a standalone headline on pages that don't typically cover players ranked outside the top 10. That shift did not happen by accident. It happened because Eala spent the last several weeks forcing the entire sport and the brands attached to it to catch up to what her fans already knew. The US Open begins August 24th at Flushing Meadows, sitting inside a borough that houses one of the largest Filipino communities anywhere in the United States. If this dress was designed to turn heads before a single ball was struck, New York is where it gets tested in the environment that actually matters under the lights, in front of a crowd that has already proven, in both Toronto and Washington, that it shows up in numbers tournaments, and brands are only now learning to plan around. Every rival brand sponsoring a player in that draw is watching the exact same thing Nike is betting on, a Southeast Asian superstar whose commercial pull is now outpacing her ranking. If Eala runs deep in New York wearing this kit, the story stops being about fabric and color. It becomes the defining image of the entire tournament. So here's the question for the comments. Does this royal blue dress become the defining image of Alex Eala's breakout US Open run? Or does the weight of that moment end up bigger than the fabric itself? Drop your prediction below right now. How far do you think she goes in New York wearing this kit? Comment your round, tag a fellow Filipino or American tennis fan who needs to see this, and come back after the tournament to see who actually called it royal blue. Mesh panels, a nation's colors stitched quietly into a Grand Slam kit. Nike has made its bet on who the story of this US Open is going to be. Now it's on Alex Eala to make sure New York remembers this dress for what happens on the court, not just for how it looked walking onto it. If you want to be ahead of every headline this tournament produces over the next 3 weeks, subscribe right now, because the fans who called Toronto and Washington correctly before anyone else was paying attention are already here.